Let me ask you something. Have you ever made a decision you were sure was right, only to look back later and think, what the hell was I thinking? Maybe it was buying something you didn't need. Maybe it was trusting someone you shouldn't have. Maybe it was falling for a headline, a rumor, or a feeling you couldn't explain. Well, surprise, you weren't thinking. At least, not with the part of your brain you believe you think with. This is where the journey begins, because the truth is brutally simple. Your brain is tricking you, constantly, every single day. And most of the time, you don't even notice. But here's where it gets wild. This isn't a bug, it's the system, the way your mind is built. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman spent 40+ years studying it. He won a Nobel Prize for exposing it. And what he discovered was this. Inside your mind live two characters, two storytellers, two decision makers, and they're fighting for control of your life. He called them System 1 and System 2, but I like to call them fast brain and slow brain. And once you see how these two parts operate, you'll start to look at your choices, your fears, your reactions, your relationships, your money, in a completely different way. But wait till you hear this, because the most shocking part is how often the wrong system is driving. Let's meet them. Fast brain, the impulsive one. Fast brain is the part of you that reacts before you know what's happening. It's the one that finishes your sentences, recognizes a threat instantly, reacts emotionally, loves shortcuts, jumps to conclusions, makes you say, I knew it, even when you didn't. It's fast, intuitive, automatic, and emotional. It's the reason you can read someone's facial expression in less than a second. It's the reason you can drive home on autopilot and not remember half the trip. But it's also the reason you fall for lies, why you misjudge situations, why you trust your gut when your gut has no idea what it's talking about. Fast brain hates thinking. It loves speed. If life were a movie, this part is the character who kicks down the door without knowing what's inside. Sometimes that makes you a hero. Other times, well, chaos. And the most dangerous thing about fast brain? It feels right, even when it's incredibly wrong. Slow brain, the lazy genius. Now meet slow brain. This is the analytical thinker, the planner, the mathematician, the problem solver. It's the part of your mind that analyzes questions, double-checks, calculates reasons, thinks before reacting. Slow brain is powerful, but it's lazy. It only wakes up when things get difficult. If fast brain is the impulsive teenager, slow brain is the tired parent who just wants some peace. It would rather sit on the couch than get involved. So most of the time, fast brain is making the decisions. You imagine you're logical, but you're actually emotional first, rational second. And that's how your brain tricks you, by making you feel like you're thinking, even when you're not. But here's where it gets real, because once you understand how these two systems interact, you can catch your brain in the act and stop it from ruining your decisions. The first trap, jumping to conclusions. Let's start with a classic. A bat and a ball cost $1.10. The bat costs $1 more than the ball. How much is the ball? Fast brain shouts, 10 cents, easy. Except, that's wrong. The ball costs 5 cents, because if it were 10, the total would be $1.20, not $1.10. This tiny problem exposed millions of people. We all thought we were thinking, but we weren't. Fast brain didn't bother involving slow brain. It grabbed the first answer that felt right and ran with it. If a math question can fool you this easily, imagine what it does to your emotions, your assumptions, your relationships, and your money. But wait till you hear this next one. The availability trick. Your brain judges truth by how easily something comes to mind. Hear about a shark attack? Suddenly the ocean feels terrifying. Watch the news for 10 minutes? The world looks like a war zone. See one bad comment online? Your whole day feels ruined. This is called the availability heuristic. Your brain overvaluing whatever is easiest to recall, not whatever is statistically true. That's why people overestimate plane crashes, crime rates, rare diseases, lottery wins, breakups after seeing one couple fight. Your brain isn't trying to hurt you. It's trying to protect you, but it's terrible at math and probability. And the craziest part? You can't turn this off, but you can recognize it and correct for it. The substitution trick. Now this one is sneaky. Your slow brain gets tired easily. So when you ask it a hard question like, how happy am I with my life? Fast brain quietly replaces it with an easier one. What's my mood right now? That's why your life satisfaction suddenly drops. All right. Now that you've met fast brain and slow brain, let's get into the real tricks, the biases that shape almost every choice you make without your permission. These aren't just cute psychology terms. They're the invisible forces behind your financial decisions, your relationships, your fears, your confidence, your arguments, your failures, your habits, your impulsive late-night Amazon purchases. And once you can see them, you'll start catching your brain red-handed in the act of lying to you. Let's start with one of the most powerful illusions your mind creates. 1. The anchor that hooks your brain. Imagine I ask you this question. Is the tallest redwood tree more or less than 1,200 feet? And then I ask you, so what's your guess? Your brain will guess something close to 1,200 feet, even though redwoods never grow that tall. Now imagine I had asked you the same question, but instead said, is it more or less than 200 feet? Your guess would suddenly drop much lower. You think you're estimating logically, but no, you're being anchored. Anchoring means the first number you hear, any number, sticks to your mind like glue and drags your decision in its direction. Marketers know this. Salespeople know this. Restaurants know this. Airlines know this. Real estate agents really know this. Why do stores show you the original price that's absurdly high? To anchor you. Why do influencers tell you their course is normally worth $3,000? To anchor you. Why do negotiation experts always teach, whoever says the first number wins? Anchoring. Your brain loves shortcuts, and anchors are the easiest shortcut of all. Here's the catch. You can't stop yourself from being anchored, but you can question the anchor before it drags you underwater. And this next trick? Oh, this one messes with almost everyone. 2. The availability illusion. Why drama rules your mind. Your brain assumes that whatever comes to mind easily is important. Plane crash on the news, suddenly flying feels dangerous. One story about a cheating partner, your relationship anxiety spikes. One viral video about the economy collapsing, you panic, even if nothing actually changed. You're not reacting to reality. You're reacting to availability. Whatever information is easiest for your brain to pull up. But here's the problem. Your brain doesn't store information based on truth. It stores it based on emotion. Fear? Stored. Drama? Stored. Anger? Stored. That's why the news doesn't show you the millions of planes that landed safely today. It shows you the one story that will hook fast brain. And every time this happens, You build a false picture of the world, one full of danger, chaos, and worst-case scenarios. Your brain thinks it's protecting you, but it's actually tricking you into living in fear of things that rarely happen. But we're just getting started, because this next one is the most annoying trick your brain plays. 3. Substitution, when your brain answers the wrong question. Here's a simple example. Real question. How satisfied are you with your life? Brain's substituted question. What's my mood right now? Real question. Is this investment a good long-term choice? Brain's substituted question. Does this feel exciting? Real question. Do I like this person's character? Brain's substituted question. Do I like how this person looks? Your brain quietly swaps a hard question for an easy one without telling you, and you respond with absolute confidence to a question you never actually analyzed. This is why emotions make terrible decision makers. They answer whatever is easiest, not whatever is true. And now, for the biggest mind game your brain loves to play. Fewer. The storytelling machine. How your brain lies to you. Humans are story-driven creatures. We can't stand randomness. We can't stand confusion. We can't stand, I don't know. So your brain invents stories, instantly, automatically, confidently. You fail a test? See, I'm just not smart. Someone ignores your message. They hate me. A business idea doesn't work? I knew it was a bad idea anyway. These stories might be comforting or painful, but either way, they are lies. Kahneman calls it the illusion of understanding, your brain's tendency to create a clean, coherent narrative, even when the truth is messy and unknown. You think you're explaining reality, but you're just explaining your feelings. You think you're predicting the future, but you're just recycling the past. You think you knew it all along, but that's hindsight bias. Your brain edits your memories to make you feel more in control than you actually were, not because it wants to deceive you, but because it wants to soothe you. Your brain hates uncertainty so much that it would rather believe a lie than sit with maybe. 5. The confidence trap. You don't know what you don't know. Now, here's the curveball. We've talked about the mind's shortcuts. We've talked about the invisible biases. But now we get to the big one. The part of Kahneman's work that literally won a Nobel Prize. Prospect theory. Don't worry, we're not doing math. This isn't school. This is your life, your choices, your money, your happiness, your fears. All explained in a way you'll never forget. Because prospect theory reveals something wild. You don't make decisions based on logic. You make them based on how you feel about potential gains and losses. And your feelings? They're not balanced, not even close. Let's start with the most powerful psychological force in decision-making. 1. Loss aversion. Losing hurts more than winning feels good. Imagine you find $100 on the ground. Feels pretty great, right? Now imagine you lose $100. Suddenly the world feels unfair. You're irritated. You keep replaying it in your head. Kahneman found that losing something hurts about 2 times more than gaining it feels good. This one truth explains why people stay in dead relationships, why investors hold losing stocks way too long, why you avoid difficult decisions, why you get stuck in bad habits,
why you fear change more than failure, why you cling to comfort zones, why "what if I lose" controls your life. Your brain hates losses, even small ones, even imaginary ones. That's why you feel more pain giving something up than pleasure from getting something new. And this bias quietly shapes your entire life. But here's where it gets even crazier. 2. The fourfold pattern. Your brain is wildly inconsistent. Depending on the situation, you flip between risk-averse and risk-seeking without realizing it. Here's the fourfold pattern in plain English. A. When the chance of winning is high, you avoid risks. Example: someone says, "You have a 95% chance of winning $1,000 or a guaranteed $900. Most people take the $900. You reject the gamble, even though it's mathematically better. B. When the chance of losing is high, you avoid risks again. Pay $900 now or take a 95% chance of paying $1,000. Most people pay the $900 up front. C. When the chance of winning is tiny, you become risk-seeking. This is why people buy lottery tickets. Even though the odds are terrible, your brain gets seduced by the dream. D. When the chance of losing is tiny, you still take risks. This is why people gamble in casinos thinking, "It's unlikely I'll lose big." And then, they lose big. Your brain flips from fearless to terrified, depending entirely on how the probabilities are framed. You think you're making rational choices. What you're really doing is reacting emotionally to the size of the potential pain. But pain isn't the only trick your brain plays, because the next illusion, it actually changes your memories. 3. The peak end rule. Why experiences trick you in hindsight. Your brain does not remember experiences accurately. It doesn't care about the average of the experience. It doesn't care how long it lasted. It doesn't care about every moment. Your brain only remembers two things: the peak, best or worst moment, the end. That's it. A vacation that's 90% amazing but ends with a miserable flight home? Your brain tags it as not that great. A concert with long, boring parts but an incredible finale? Your brain tags it as amazing. A relationship with years of small joys but one horrible ending? Your brain rewrites the whole story. Your remembering self is the storyteller. Your experiencing self just lives through the moments. And guess who makes your decisions? The storyteller, the remembering self. This is why we repeat uncomfortable experiences that ended well. We avoid great experiences that ended badly. We sabotage good things because of one bad moment. We confuse a painful journey with a painful story. We underestimate how good things actually were. The peak end rule is why humans tolerate marathons. The ending, the pride, overwrites the hours of pain. It's why childbirth is remembered as beautiful, even though the pain is beyond imagination. Your brain edits your life the same way a movie editor cuts footage, keeping the most intense moments and the ending. Everything else, deleted. And if that doesn't freak you out just a little, wait for this next part. 4. The framing effect. How the same information tricks you. Depending on the packaging. Let me give you two statements. 90% survival rate, 10% mortality rate. They mean the exact same thing, but one feels reassuring, the other feels terrifying. This single trick explains political persuasion, advertising media manipulation, financial decisions, health choices, even relationship arguments. For example, save $50 feels way better than stop losing $50, even though both are identical. Doctors know this. Politicians know this. Sales teams know this. Your brain has no idea.
We're entering the final chapter of this journey, and honestly, it's the one that changes people the most. Because Kahneman discovered something mind-bending about you. There isn't just one you. There are two. Two versions of yourself that see the world differently, want different things, remember life differently, and even disagree on what happiness means. This is where your brain's biggest trick happens. A trick that affects your decisions, your relationships, your goals, your happiness, everything. Let's meet them. 1. The experiencing self, the one who lives your life. The experiencing self is you in the moment. It's the self who tastes your morning coffee, feels the cold water of a shower, laughs at a joke, gets annoyed in traffic, enjoys the warm sun, gets overwhelmed by stress, feels the peaceful silence at night. This self lives second by second. It doesn't care about stories. It doesn't care about meaning. It doesn't care about achievements. It cares about experience, how life actually feels. If you ask this self, "How was your day?" its answer depends on what you're feeling right now. If you're stressed now, today sucked. If you're relaxed now, today wasn't bad. It's fragile. It's emotional. It's honest. Most mental health issues live here. Most joy lives here. Most suffering lives here. But this self has a twin. 2. The remembering self, the storyteller. This is the part of you that writes your autobiography. It doesn't live in moments. It lives in stories. It decides whether you liked a vacation, whether the relationship was worth it, whether your career makes sense, whether you're doing well in life. And it's not accurate. The remembering self uses shortcuts. 1. It only remembers the peak of an experience, best or worst moment. 2. It remembers the ending. 3. It forgets everything else, even if everything else was most of the experience. This is why a terrible trip that ends beautifully becomes a great trip. This is why a good relationship with a painful final month becomes a terrible relationship. This is why people do marathons again. Not because running for hours is fun, but because crossing the finish line is. Your experiencing self hates pain. Your remembering self loves a good story. And here's the part that should make you lean in. Your remembering self makes almost all your decisions. It decides your goals, your career, your relationships, your big risks, your future. But who has to live with those decisions? Your experiencing self, the self you rarely listen to, the self you constantly sacrifice for the story. And that creates a massive disconnect. 3. The battle between the two selves. Think about it. Who chooses to take on a stressful job for future success? The remembering self. Who suffers through the stress every day? The experiencing self. Who decides to stay in a relationship because we've been together for 5 years? The remembering self. Who feels lonely, frustrated, or unseen every day? The experiencing self. Who signs up for a marathon because it'll be an amazing accomplishment? The remembering self. Who suffers for 4 hours straight? The experiencing self. It's like having a manager, remembering self, who only cares about the highlight reel, and an employee, experiencing self, who does all the work. And your life gets better, dramatically better, when these two selves start cooperating. But first, you need to spot the tricks. 4. Your remembering self is obsessed with meaning, not experience. Kahneman found something wild. The remembering self doesn't care if something is pleasant. It cares if something is meaningful or story-worthy. This explains so much. Why people climb Mount Everest, why they stay in challenging careers, why they choose children despite years of stress, why they take on painful challenges, why they keep pushing through difficult goals. Your brain is wired to prefer a meaningful life over a comfortable one. Meaning greater than comfort. Purpose greater than pleasure. Story greater than ease. But here's the catch. If your remembering self goes too far, your experiencing self suffers chronically. And that leads to burnout, anxiety, and emotional numbness. Even the story starts falling apart. So here's the question. How do you balance the two? Let's break this down. Both are valid, but confusing the two leads to misery. C. Do a reality check on your thoughts. Your thoughts feel true. They are not facts. Kahneman suggests catching thoughts like, "Everyone will judge me. I always fail at this. This opportunity is too risky. I'll be miserable if this goes wrong." These are System 1 exaggerations. System 2 needs to step in. Hit subscribe and keep learning the psychology that makes you stronger, clearer, and harder to fool. Your mind is powerful. Now it's time to use it intentionally.